Welcome to the Culture Days info session again for anybody who joined us a little bit later. Again, my name is Aubrey Reeves. I'm the Executive Director of Ontario Culture Days, and presenting with me today is Catherine McLeod, the Network and Outreach Manager. For those of you who are unfamiliar completely with Culture Days, it is a national national volunteer engagement movement that happens on the last weekend of September every year. It is really aimed at increasing collaboration, participation, and engagement of Canadians in the arts and cultural life of their communities. This year it happens on September 25th, 26th, and 27th, and will again feature thousands of free hands-on and participatory activities. If you haven't ever attended a Culture Days, what the experience is really an opportunity to try out something for yourself. The aim is to give the public a chance to see the behind the scenes or a one-on-one experience of culture. So instead of presenting exhibitions, theater productions, the final product shows, we ask that the arts and cultural sector share their process with the public so that they can see what actually goes into the production of arts and culture. So Culture Days was inspired by Les Journées de la Culture, which is an annual weekend celebration that has been going in Quebec for 18 years. Journées de la Culture was the model which the rest of Culture Days was built on. In 2007, the Canadian Arts Summit commissioned a feasibility study to assess the model and see if it might be something that could be adopted across the rest of the country. After that feasibility study, the groundwork was put in place to actually launch Culture Days in 2010, and it was launched in every province across the country in 2010. This is now the 6th year of Culture Days. We celebrated our 5th anniversary last year, and we've seen enormous growth and uptake in that time. So I'm going to hand it over to Catherine now.
Okay, thanks, Aubrey. So Culture Days, our organizational structure is represented here. We work quite collaboratively rather than in a hierarchical structure. So the National Culture Days office, they're based in Montreal. They take care of everything that has to do with the overall look and feel of Culture Days, the marketing campaign, the website, the registration system, the National Culture Days Congress and Awards program. Then each province and territory functions a little bit differently. Here in Ontario, we have just incorporated as a not-for-profit organization. And along with us, the staff in the Ontario Culture Days office, we have a task force of more than 90 community organizers. So the community organizers are people who help organize Culture Days activities in their own communities. These can be straight up volunteers, people who work with municipal cultural departments or local arts councils or specific arts or cultural institutions in their communities. And as I said, we have more than 90 people on that task force that work collaboratively together. Then we have the activity organizers who put on their activities in communities across the province, and the public who comes out. And we all work together to make sure that Culture Days happens. Now, who can get involved in Culture Days and how? Absolutely anybody can get involved in Culture Days. All they have to do is register an activity at our website, culturedays.ca, and there are only 4 requirements to being involved in Culture Days. So first of all, your activity must be free for the public to participate in. So that is really to break down any barriers to participation. We want people to try something new, something they might not otherwise try out, hopefully fall in love with it and be involved the other 362 days of the year. Now, while your activity that you're inviting the public out to participate in has to be free, that doesn't mean that you can't sell your artwork, your products, tickets for upcoming shows. You can have fundraising activities going along if you wanted to have a silent auction going along alongside your activity, or have raffle tickets. You could also have a donation box if people are really excited about your organization and they want to make a donation. You just can't say a suggested donation amount. So the activity has to be free for the public to participate in. activities have to take place on the Culture Days weekend. If your activity is something that regularly happens, like a fourth Friday, you can write in your description, note this is a regularly occurring activity, but you'll only be able to check off the dates for the actual Culture Days weekend. Same goes if you have an exhibit or something that runs before and after Culture Days. Just write in the description, this exhibit goes from this day to this day. So people know that it's an ongoing activity, but the only dates and times you will be able to check off are the 25th, 26th, and 27th of September. The activities that you invite the public out to participate in have to be interactive or participatory in some way. This can be anything from a Q&A, a demo, an artist talk, all the way up to a collaborative art project that you invite people to participate in to create something with you together. So there's a lot of leeway in what the interactive or participatory engagement component must be, but this is something that really sets Culture Days apart, is that rather than viewing spectacle, it's a chance for people to try something, to see behind the scenes in the arts and cultural industry and see how things are made, produced, what happens out of the spotlight. And your activity must be registered on the Culture Days website. This is extremely important for a number of reasons. One, all of our marketing and PR activities drive everyone towards the website to find out what's happening. There's quite a powerful search engine there where people can search for an activity, very specifically a dance activity in a wheelchair accessible location 2 kilometers from their house, for example. So it's really important that you're registered so people can find you. Also, it's really important that you're registered so that we can help promote you through our marketing and PR efforts. And also when we hand out marketing materials, we base all of that on the number of activities registered in a community. So do register your activity on the Culture Days website. So absolutely anyone can participate in Culture Days as long as you fit into the 4 criteria on the previous slide, then you can participate. So it's the full spectrum of creators, amateur to professional, who can participate. Everything from someone who just has a love of something they do as a hobby, say they're a hobbyist in knitting and they want to share their love of knitting, all the way up to the Canadian Opera Company and everyone in between. It is a very broad definition of culture. It includes heritage, multicultural, culinary arts activities. We don't have any jury or selection process. If it's culture to you, it's culture to us. We're happy. So sign in with any of that wide range of activities. And as I mentioned before, the quality of engagement is really key to Culture Days. So for us, if you had a whole bunch of people stampede through your activity, but no one stopped and talked to you, no one actually participated in your hands-on activity, that wouldn't be a successful activity the way that we would view it. However, if you had a handful of people come out, but somebody signed up for a class, somebody bought a small piece of work, someone signed on to your mailing list, that would be a very successful Culture Days activity, because you now have 3 fans in the community who know about you, who are excited about you, who are going to talk about you to their friends and their networks. So it's really about that quality of engagement between the cultural creators and the public. And activities can be as big or as small as you want. So just because Culture Days is 3 days of activities, you do not need to schedule around the clock 3 days of Culture Days activities. You can participate with one activity on one day and you're participating in Culture Days. Okay, so just to give you a brief snapshot of Culture Days in Ontario, this is what Culture Days looked like last year in 2014. We had more than 500,000 Ontarians come out on the Culture Days weekend. We had 1,671 cultural activities programmed across the province. We were in 106 out of 107 provincial ridings, so you can see there was good distribution throughout the province in 172 different cities and towns. There were over 1,000 different activity organizers that participated, and those are just the people who registered their activity on the website. The specific individual artist or arts or cultural organization. Now we know that when you include all of the staff and volunteers involved in putting on that activity, that number is a lot higher. But that is the number that we can track through our registration system. Ontario represents 55% of the National Culture Days registration. which is not surprising given the size and density of our population. That does not include Quebec and Alberta, as they're on their own registration system since they started before us. 123 million media impressions were generated, so we're really getting a lot of coverage in the press. And we had 36 million marketing impressions, and we know this number is low. There were a lot more marketing impressions. This is just the number that we can track that people have reported to us, but we know in fact that that is much higher. And as Aubrey mentioned, there has been a great growth in Culture Days. Culture Days has grown by 84% between 2010 and 2014, and we expect it to continue to grow as we see new communities and new activity organizers coming on to Culture Days each year. Now I'm going to pass it back to Aubrey to go through some of the research highlights from our annual research program.
Great, thank you, Catherine. Okay, so every year, Culture Days conducts a number of research studies to be able to track the participation and engagement in the Culture Days weekend. The first study is with activity organizers. Those are the people like potentially yourself who are registering activities and presenting them on the Culture Days weekend. The second study is with public attendees. So they are people who came out and took part in Culture Days weekends. And then the third group is the general public. They receive a telephone survey, a sample, obviously, the general public receive a telephone call to find out about their awareness of Culture Days and a general impression of what it is all about. So what I'm going to focus on today out of the research, and we have considerable quantity of it, is just looking at the public attendees and then a little bit about activity organizers. So the public attendees have reported year after year an incredibly high satisfaction with their attendance at Culture Days. Last year's numbers were 96% were satisfied with activities they attended, and it has been consistently in above 90% every single year. That is just quite amazing. But additionally, 89% said Culture Days is an important event in their community. For me, also the next stat is very important because 75% experienced greater pride in their community as a result of participating. And that is starting to get at what Culture Days is all about, building a sense of community, of place, and a deep connection to what is in your own local community. And then finally, the 90% said the arts and cultural events in their community make it a more enjoyable place to live. And this deals with all sorts of research out there about how arts and culture improves quality of life in communities, and that it contributes to why people want to live in a particular place. Continuing on, these stats on this page really get to what Culture Days is all about. 73% express an increased understanding of the positive contribution of artists and arts organizations in their communities. So people are understanding what the arts bring to their local communities. 72% plan to attend more arts and cultural events in their communities as a result of participating in Culture Days. What that means is through the rest of the year, they're going out to see more exhibitions, more theater shows, more concerts, because of the hands-on and behind-the-scenes experience that they had at Culture Days. They gained a greater appreciation of that final product and want to see it throughout the rest of the year. 65% discovered a local artist or arts organization in their local community that they had not previously heard of. So they're discovering that talent in their own backyards. And 53% expressed an increased desire to donate or volunteer. And I think this is a really amazing stat because it's not only that they had a great time, they discovered someone new, but they actually now want to give back to their arts and cultural community in whatever way they can. And then 96%, so they are likely to attend again next year. And that, of course, matches up with on the previous stat, the 96% who were satisfied with their experience. Also of note is all of these stats on this second page are up an average of 4% from last year. So we are seeing an incremental positive impact that Culture Days is having across the country. These stats are looking at people who have attended the previous years, and what we asked them is, as a result of attending Culture Days last year, and now you've attended this year. In that year in between, did you actually attend more arts and cultural events, donate more to arts and culture, undertake volunteering, et cetera, et cetera? And consistently, everyone is saying, yes, they did. The increase from 2013 to 2014, as you can see there, it's up of 5, 7, 4 points for all of those stats. So people are really actually going out and seeing more arts and culture, participating more in arts and culture because of attending the Culture Days weekend. Okay, so now I'm going to talk a little bit about activity organizers and why they participate in Culture Days. They have reported a range of positive outcomes, but the number one reason is that they actually felt Culture Days enhanced their own enthusiasm for what they do. I personally am a visual artist, and so I work in my studio by myself on a project, and then only get to actually interact with the public at the art exhibition openings. But then generally, you know, those kind of experiences are not in-depth discussions. It's also your friends. It's a lot of chit-chat. You don't get to have one-on-one in-depth discussions about your practice and your process at those kind of events, because you're presenting the final product. Being able to have a workshop with the public where you're sharing what you do and you're getting that feedback from them about why you might use one thing over another, why you approach it this way, is really enriching for the practitioner. Also, activity organizers report that they have a much increased level of awareness for their work in the community, and ultimately that is why a lot of activity organizers want to participate in Culture Days, because they're really trying to reach out to new audiences and new clients. 46% said they collaborated with other arts and cultural organizations in the community. We're seeing that a lot. Culture Days is an opportunity to build some bridges and relationships. 41% said they attracted new audiences or clients. 39% made contact with those people at their municipality that are responsible for arts and cultural policy. So that's people in their cultural affairs departments or their cultural planning departments, which can be really important allies for the arts and cultural community year-round. And then 37% so they strengthen relationships with supporters or sponsors. And 31% develop new skills. And we're going to get to some of the resources that can help you develop skills later on in the presentation. Okay, so now we're going to move into tips and ideas for activity organizers. I'm going to pass it back to Catherine.
Okay, now I'm going to show you a little bit on our website, the registration process and how to register. So this is our Culture Days website. And while I'm on the main page, as Aubrey was talking about the tips and tools and resources that are available, I just wanted to show you this area. There are all kinds of tip sheets, toolkits, resources here for you. They're all organized into different phases when you're planning your activity, ideas for how to get involved, how to promote your activity, marketing materials, public relations, and documenting and evaluating your activity. We also have a webinar series this year, and if you missed any of them, you can go in here to read more, and you can see all of the white papers, the presentation slides, or you can actually view the recordings of the webinars. And as you can see, there's a wide range here from sponsorship marketing to content marketing, crowdfunding, and right now there's a digital marketing webinar going on. Part 1 has already happened, and Part 2 is happening later today if you wanted to catch that. So again, if you can't, you can always look into the resources later, and the white papers are quite comprehensive. I wanted to show you this marketing materials area specifically. So while we have a national marketing campaign and a provincial marketing campaign, and your local community may have a community level campaign, there are also a wide range of materials here for you to do your own marketing campaign. And we really encourage you to take advantage of these. There are the Culture Days logos, the email signature. There are all of the creative elements in case you wanted to create your own marketing collateral, and it has the Culture Days ribbons and all of the I Love Culture elements there. Video bumpers, if you wanted to do a little promotion video for YouTube, you would have a Culture Days intro and exit to your video. And you could let us know about that and we would put it up on our YouTube channel for Culture Days. There are web badges, posters, postcards, web banners, e-flyers. I'm just going to show you briefly the posters here. Everything is fully customizable. So you can go in, just going to wait for the catch up on the internet there. So you can see there's the I Love Culture poster for individual activity organizers, and you can put all of the details here about your activity. There is also an area here for local sponsors. So if you were to get some support for your Culture Days activity, you can recognize your sponsors. This is true on the postcards, the e-flyers, everything. And then there's one for a community. So if you were doing Brockville Loves Culture, for example, and then you could have your main activities listed here or your main hub areas. So all of these marketing materials are customizable, downloadable, they're free. You just, if you're going to print things off, you need to find support for your printing costs, and you're ready to go on the marketing materials. So do let everyone know about your Culture Days activity. Everyone benefits from the cross promotion of people promoting to their personal and professional networks. So use the email signature, let everyone you're emailing about anything know that you are participating in the Culture Days. So when they go on to find your event, they might also discover, oh, there's, a music event, there's a pottery event, something else they're interested in, but they'll also come out to you. Now, I'm going to show you briefly some stuff on the registration system. It is the 6th year, as Aubrey mentioned, for Culture Days, and so we have worked out pretty much all of the glitches. There have been no glitches so far this year. If you have any difficulties registering on the Culture Days website, please contact us. We'll be happy to help you. So I just want to show you here, if you participated last year, you can create your activity from last year, so you don't need to re-input the contact information for your organization, for example. You can just change the salient details for your activity for this year, or you can add a new activity. Once you add an activity, you'll have a list of your activities here. So if you've registered a number, you would see a list. Here is my draft activity, my fantastical, amazing activity. You will notice it is in draft because of the yellow line. If it's live, it will be green. Now, if you register your activity in draft mode, I do recommend that you give yourself a calendar reminder or something so that you know you need to go back in and publish it, because unfortunately, each year we have people in September contact us who registered their activity in June, saying they're not on the website, and it's because they're in draft mode. We do send out reminders reminding people that they're in draft mode, but do give yourself a reminder as well. You can publish your activity so it is live. Even if you do not have all of the details, you can leave things to be determined. Again, if you do that, give yourself a reminder to go in and write in the firmed up details once you have them. Unfortunately, each year we see some activities that are being presented on the Culture Days weekend at venues to be determined. So if you haven't been able to go in and update your venue information, people just won't be able to find you. So again, give yourself a reminder. It is a good idea to publish your activity as soon as possible, even if you don't have all the details yet. That starts to build some excitement in the community, lets people know there are activities planned in the community. It's also great for collaboration. So if someone else is planning an activity, they can say, oh, someone's doing an activity at the library. Maybe I'll see if I can go before or after them, and we can create a little bit of a hub location, for example. So you can edit your activity at any time, even when it's live. You can edit your activity. It is pretty straightforward. The entire Culture Days website is bilingual and can be, all of the resources and information can be seen in English or French if you click Frances up here at the top. That is not true, however, of your activity descriptions. We just do not have the capacity to translate everybody's activity description. So if you want your activity description to be in both French and English, then you're going to have to choose the French version here and put in the English and French. It is very straightforward. Just make sure you fill out all of the boxes in all 5 tabs. I do want to just draw your attention to 2 areas. In terms of location, the area that is most likely to be incorrect on your registration is the Google map, because as we know, Google is not infallible. This is especially true if you are going to be in a green space, a park, a plaza, some place that doesn't necessarily have a postal code associated with it. So once you put in your postal code, do check that the red pin is in the correct location. If it is not, click here, no, this map is incorrect, and the National Culture Days team will help you get the balloon in the right location. For some reason, when Google Maps cannot determine the location, it tends to put the activities in rural northern Ontario. So definitely do check it out so that people can find you. You need to be in the correct location for people to find you in search. So if, for example, the red balloon is up in northern Ontario and you are in Brampton, if people type in Brampton for a search, they're not going to find your activity. So this is very important for both people finding your activity on the day and people being able to know what you're doing in the community. The other thing I want to draw your attention to is in images. There's all of the information here about the size restrictions on the image. I do want to remind you to upload an image file. Sometimes people try to upload, say, a logo file that might be in an Adobe format. That is just not going to work well on the website. So definitely upload an image file. When you upload your image, you will see a gray box, which will be a crop box. You do have to crop your photo in order for it to be uploaded. That just ensures everything looks uniform on the site. You can move the crop box back and forth so you get the best bit of your photo, but if you do not crop it, you won't be able to upload it. There is a space for photo credit, so you can put in credit your photographer, and there is an image gallery, so you can put in more than one photo. You don't have to be restricted. So when you're all ready and you have your information in there, definitely save your changes. If you want to publish it, put in the code and hit publish, and then your activity will go live. So just to show you what this looks like, these are all of the activities in Ontario right now, 228 activities. So I am just going to be, and you can see some people have put in to be arranged. Things are still determining. So I'm just going to choose an activity here to show you what it looks like. I'm going to choose this Meaford Scarecrow Invasion activity to show you what a description looks like. So you have all of your qualifiers, what kind of activity it is, what people will be involved in. There's a place for your description. There's a place to put in a link to your website, your Facebook page, anywhere you want to send people for more information. Up here, people can click to say they plan on attending your activity. Now, clearly, people may come to your activity who do not click this. People may click it and not come, but it does give you an idea of the number of people who have come to your activity page and expressed an interest in your activity. Later in the summer, our personal scheduler will launch the Bright Spot schedule, and that is where people can actually click on the activity, add it to a personal schedule, and they can either send that to their phone or print it out, and the application will actually put everything into chronological order for them, so they have their own personalized itinerary for Culture Days. That launches later in the summer. You can see that the activity page is all linked in to social media, so people can like it or share it on Facebook. They can tweet about it, they can print it off, or they can email it to a friend. Here are the dates and times. So this particular activity is happening all 3 days. If it wasn't happening on one day, this would just be grayed out so you wouldn't see it. And the dates and times are very clear. Here you have the Google map, description, direction, and additional photos down here in the photo gallery. So people can see some other examples of your work and your activity contact, your media contact, and a place for comments down here where people can say things like, I went to this last year, it was amazing, you should come out, things like that. So that is what the activity description looks like. That's what your page will look like. And I do just want to show you a little bit what the search looks like. So you can see that people can search by region, they can search by city, they can search the whole province, they can search by date and time, or activity name, activity organizer, if they know the activity organizer they would like to see, wheelchair accessible locations, language, and they can further search if they hit this filter for specific kinds of activities. So if they're specifically looking for a hands-on First Nations activity that is suitable for family-friendly activity, then they can click those keywords as well. When you're registering your activity, there is a place to put in additional keywords. So that, I think, is the main things I wanted to show you on the website. We're going to head back to the PowerPoint presentation now. If you have any questions, as I said, about how to register, just let us know. Get in contact with us if you have any difficulties, and we'll be happy to help you out. So just to give you a sense of the timeline for Culture Days, each year we do have an early registration campaign. Registration launches mid-March, and if you register early, there are chances to be involved in some incentives. So the incentives change each year. This year there was a chance to win a free trip to our National Congress, which was in Edmonton. The National Congress changes communities each year, and there was a chance to win a customized community marketing kit for your community as well. So if you know what you are going to do next year, do register as early as possible to take advantage of some of these incentives. Then in April, May, and into early June, we do these information sessions to let people know about Culture Days in Ontario. In the summer, there will be another registration campaign with an incentive. In early September, you'll start to see the marketing and media campaign ramp up. And this year we have a registration deadline. So for those of you who have participated before in Culture Days, you know that you could register your Culture Days activity at any point, including the Culture Days weekend. But we just saw too many people doing that, and we want to help people be successful in getting people out to their Culture Days activities. So we have a registration deadline. It's September 18th. That is just 1 week in advance of Culture Days. But to encourage people to register ahead of time, then it's the Culture Days weekend. And then in October, we do post-event surveys and content collection. So if you have any testimonials, quotes, anything interesting that happened at your Culture Days activity, a fabulous photo, do send those on to us, and we use them in all of our PR and marketing materials. Just make sure for photos that you have appropriate photo permissions, and there is a photo permission form in our tips and tools section that I showed you previously. And just to underline the point that early registration really does lead to success. So we saw that the activity organizers who registered earliest, in this case before July, with a longer period to plan and promote their activities, reported the highest success rate. And not only that they reported that their activities were successful, but very successful. And then we see that the 16% across the country that did not register until September were the least likely to rate their activity as very successful. And in Ontario, that was actually 1/3 of all activity organizers that didn't register their activity until September. So when we asked people why they didn't register until September, some were not sure if they were going to participate, and there's not a lot that we can do about that. But 38% didn't find out about Culture Days until September. So that is one of the main reasons we hold these information sessions. If there is anybody that you know who might like to participate in Culture Days but were not able to attend the session, do let them know. We will be putting up a recording and these slides on our Ontario microsite later so that they can review it and get all of the information. So do let anyone you know who might want to participate in Culture Days know about it as soon as possible so that they can register. Now I'm going to pass it back to Aubrey now to talk about some events that coincide with Culture Days.
Okay. Yes, each year there are things that fall on the same weekend as Culture Days. Here in Ontario, quite a few communities do their doors open on the Culture Days weekend, and about a quarter of all doors open activities are happening on the Culture Days weekend this year. So check with your community, see if maybe your doors open aligns. There's other things that are also happening on the Culture Days weekend. It so happens there's a total lunar eclipse on the evening of September 27th. So there's some great activities being planned that have lunar or astronomy themes. It also is the culmination of Science Literacy Week, so there's definitely a tie-in there between astronomy and Science Literacy Week. Excavating in Canada events are happening on the same weekend. There's about 5 of them across Ontario. There's a World River Day is also lining up on the 27th. And this year is Craft Year 2015. You might also have local events that aren't part of bigger national or provincial campaigns that you might want to align. Some communities have maybe their harvest fair on that particular weekend or a studio tour. There's no reason why pre-existing events can't register for Culture Days, so long as they are, again, free and open to the public and offer some sort of interactive experience. As I mentioned, Craft Year 2015 is happening this year. This is a project of craft councils across the country. In Ontario, the partner is Crafts Ontario, and we are working with them to promote Craft Year and craft as part of Culture Days this year. It is in a lot of ways similar to Culture Days, except for instead of taking place on one weekend, it happens throughout the entire year. If you are a crafts artist or part of a craft group, you can register on the Craft Year website and brand your activity as Craft Year 2015. If it also is happening on Culture Days weekend, you can double up. You can brand it Craft Year and Culture Days and do some cross promotion there. If we have a significant number of craft activities registered this year, we are going to be putting out some specific promotions about craft in Culture Days. And to the next slide, this is also Craft Ontario's project, Citizens of Craft. You can check out their website for more information. But essentially, it is a campaign to promote craft as a way of living and a kind of view on life. And we encourage you to check it out, especially if you are a crafts artist. Okay, so I'm going to go through a few tips for successful activities quickly. We have found that these tips work for a lot of different groups and individual artists. First of all, make Culture Days work for you. Have lots of promotional materials for any services or classes that you offer throughout the year. This is an opportunity to really promote those. And you can even have registration happening at your Culture Days event. If you are looking to target a specific audience, this is a great opportunity to shape your activity into something that can reach those new audiences. So, for instance, if you are interested in reaching out to teens, you can have a specific youth-focused activity. For instance, like this picture, maybe street art, or you're maybe trying to reach seniors, in which case you can have something tailored specifically to them. As Catherine mentioned earlier, there's nothing, no rules against offering things for free. If you're a visual artist and you have people coming to your studio to take part in something, you can have your artworks up on the wall. They can be for sale. You can have other products also available for sale. If you're a writer, you can have your books available. The whole point is that there's no barrier to participating in the activity, but there's always the option for people to spend their money on whatever you have to offer afterwards. One thing that we see a great deal of is partnerships between organizations or businesses. This might be a partnership with another arts organization that maybe has a venue. For instance, a theater might say, we're offering space to smaller individual artists. They want to be in our lobby areas to activate that space while we have stuff going on in the theater itself. But we also are seeing a great deal of interest from business to offer their business spaces to activity organizers and also provide other kind of support. This is also a great chance for you to engage potential clients and build your mailing list. So if you have any kind of sign-in sheets or registration cards, please put them out. It's also a great chance to do a raffle or collect participants' contact information in some other way. We've seen other organizations even do fundraisers. For instance, a community arts center has an annual tulip sale. They sell bulbs in the fall, and but they also have a hub location for Culture Days. So they have a dozen things happening. It means they have a lot of foot traffic through the building. They also run their fundraiser in the main lobby area at the same time, selling their tulip bulbs. So it's a really great way of taking advantage of the foot traffic. Okay, I'm going to, from that mention of business, I'm going to hand it over to Catherine to dig a little deeper into that.
Yeah, so we are seeing a great increase in the support for Culture Days activities from local business. Here you can see between 2013 and 2014, there was actually an 11% increase in businesses supporting Culture Days activities. They're actually, businesses are actually providing a wide range of support. from financial contributions, materials, to space, getting their employees out to provide some volunteer labor for Culture Days activities, providing advertising space. We actually did our own survey in 2012 in Ontario, and when we asked people whether or not they had asked a business for support, we found that about 16% had asked a business for support. But of those who did, that 16%, they were over 80% of them successful in securing support from a business. So while a few people asked a business for support, those who did were very successful. When we asked people who didn't ask a business for support, why not, they said either they didn't think about it or that they didn't think the business would be interested. So we are really seeing that businesses are in fact interested, and there are a lot of great tie-ins, whether it's a thematic tie-in, for example, having a storyteller tell stories about food, in your, market or grocery store, or whether it just works well in space in terms of cross promotion, getting people interested in the artist into the business, getting the regular business patrons interested in the arts. It's just a great way for cross promotion. We have seen a number of business improvement areas also getting involved in Culture Days. So there might be some organization in your community happening sort of at a larger level with business. So definitely check in with your Chamber of Commerce or your BIA to see if they're involved in Culture Days. So here are some suggestions for success. So as Aubrey said, make Culture Days work for you. It is very beneficial when you're planning your activity to think about what you want to achieve. There is actually a measuring success tip sheet in the final category of the Culture Days tips and tools, the one that said documenting and evaluating your activity. I actually recommend you look at that when you're planning your activity. So think about what you want to achieve. Do you want to sign more people up for your mailing list? Do you need a new member for your choir? Do you need volunteers for your upcoming festival? And then organize an activity around that. How are you going to get more volunteers? Maybe there's a way to give them a hands-on chance to try out what they would be doing on the day and then sign them up on their way out after the activity. So think about what you want to achieve and how to achieve it and tailor your activity to that outcome that you want to achieve, and then you'll know how to measure your success. Definitely promote yourself. Use the local marketing kit and social media. Definitely tag us, and we're going to show you our social media tags soon. We will also help retweet and favorite and promote what you're doing as well across the province. Definitely consider joining or creating a hub location. So when you get together with other artists or arts organizations to put on a range of activities in one space, whether it's a downtown street or a park or a plaza or a hub location like a library or a museum, it's just really great. The public knows I park once and there are 10 things I can do with my family. And so that is a great way to increase audience, and everyone benefits from the cross promotion. If you have those 10 different activity organizers telling people about their activity, everyone benefits. So definitely consider joining or creating a hub. You might also want to hold your activity in a high traffic area, whether that's partnering with a mall or a community center or get a permit for a public park or plaza. Go where the people already are. So we do see a number of people, for example, teaming up with their local farmers markets and doing their activities there. Some communities do plan a kickoff event or wrap-up party, and some communities also get their mayor or council to proclaim Culture Days in their community. So we offer a range of support here at Ontario Culture Days, all of the tools and resources that I showed you previously on the website. We are here to answer any questions or concerns you might have. We can certainly direct you to resources. We do support peer-to-peer learning through our Ontario Culture Days Task Force. That is where a lot of the ideas for new tip sheets come from, and we share a lot of positive experience different activity organizers or community organizers have had. We do purchase advertising and develop media sponsorships to help promote Culture Days across the province, and we run a provincial PR campaign to help raise the profile as well. I just want to let you know about our Culture Days Award program. All of this information is available on the website, where you can see all of the nomination criteria. I just want to let you know that anyone at all can nominate someone for a Culture Days Award. The award winners are promoted heavily on our blog, Culture 365, and they do get a chance to present at our National Congress, and they do receive a small cash award. So there are awards in a number of categories. There's a leadership award, a business visionary award, a marketing award, an innovative event award, and a Cities for People award that really focuses on activities that are aimed at transforming the livability of a neighborhood or community. So again, all of the nomination criteria are available on the website, and I'm happy to say that in 2014, 3 of these awards were actually won in Ontario. So definitely check out all of that information and keep it in mind when you're looking at other Culture Days events. There might be someone you might want to nominate for an award. So as I mentioned, there is provincial social media and there is national social media that you might want to follow. We put out a whole range of tips, tools, ideas, funding opportunities, as well as promoting Culture Days activities. So definitely follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, check out the information on the blog. There's a lot of great information there for you to check out.
Okay. So we are still working on securing this year's media partners, but I'm happy to say the national media partner CTV is committed again for 2015. And we also have, at the provincial level, Pattison One Stop and Metroland Media are also committed this year, and we are still negotiating other media partners. So look back on our website later to see what partners we have. But there's also a range of local media across the province that support in their own community. And so there's a great deal of promotions that happen in local newspapers, local radio stations, and so on. And then we receive support at Ontario Culture Days from the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Sport, the Ontario Arts Council, and the Ontario Trillium Foundation. We thank them for their support enabling us to do events like this webinar. And then in closing, again, if you have any questions anytime, please feel free to contact myself or Catherine at these numbers. You can also find our contact information on the website. And at this point, we have a few minutes. If you have any questions that this presentation generated that you'd like to know about right now, you can type them into the question box. Or if you have access to a microphone on your computer, you can raise your hand if you look at your little control panel on the right side of your screen, there's a little icon, it's a blue circle with a little yellow hand. If you click the raise hand, I can unmute your microphone and you can ask this question. But again, if you don't want to do that, you can just type your question into the question box and we'll try to answer them.
So while we're waiting for people to type their questions, maybe just give a little bit more information. I just wanted to mention in terms of the hub locations, if you do decide to do a hub location, then I recommend that you register all of the activities with the same intro in the activity name. So you might say Downtown Library Hub, origami workshop, Downtown Library Hub, hip hop dance class. So that way people can search and know that there's a whole range of activities happening at that Downtown Library Hub. And do put Downtown Library Hub then in your keyword so that it's a searchable term. That just also raises the profile of that hub location.
Mm-hmm. Another tip is that if you have an activity that is happening in multiple locations, it's important to register each of those locations separately. The reason for that is because they will get geolocated on the map for each of those locations. So you don't want someone to be searching for your activity and only find one out of, say, 3 locations because you didn't put them all on there. People are most likely to go through the one that is closest to them. However, if you have an activity that is happening at the same location over several days, you just select in that one registration the multiple times.
Okay, so I see a question. Mm-hmm. Can we leverage the Metroland provincial sponsorship at the local level for marketing promotion?
Yes, to a certain degree you can. I would say that's a lengthy discussion and you could contact me directly. But we do have community organizers who already have existing relationships with their local Metroland newspapers, and we facilitate some partnerships too with a limited budget for leveraging. But we have had an existing relationship with Metroland for quite a few years, and so we should be able to help in some way. A lot of the local communities will print in their local paper a single page listing all the activities happening in their community. So say it is the City of Guelph, they last year had a 2-page spread that listed all of the Culture Days activities in Guelph, and that was in their Metroland paper. Other communities might do a freestanding brochure that then gets inserted and tucked into the paper and delivered on a certain day. So we can, if you want to contact me, we can have a more detailed discussion about options in your community. Any other questions?
Okay, so while we're waiting for maybe the final question, just to follow up on what Aubrey was saying about registering your activity, if you have the same activity happening 3 days in the same location, the registration system will put those up 3 times for you. You don't need to do that. However, if you're doing multiple activities in the same location that have different audiences, do register those separately. So if you are doing both a historical tour and a children's craft activity, even though they're happening at the same location, do register them separately, because again, as you saw on the search, people can search specifically for child-friendly activities or heritage activities, and you want to make sure that your activity comes up. So rather than writing a list of all the activities happening at your location, do register them separately.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Okay, so I'm just going to launch our final poll, which we want to get some feedback from you about whether you enjoyed this webinar and whether it was useful. Great, we're getting very positive feedback from everybody. Okay, I'm just going to leave that up and again say a great big thank you for attending. We love to be able to share all our resources and tools and tips with potential activity organizers. We welcome your questions at any time. Please check out the tools and tips section on the website. It is a rich well of information and can really help your activity be successful.
I will add that we also have an Ontario resources page that you will want to check out. We will be updating it shortly, and that is specifically for some resources that only apply to Ontario. For example, we have a tip sheet on the Doors Open program, which is not a program that happens in other provinces and territories. And that is where we will be putting up this information session presentation, which then if you wanted to share it with anybody, it would be available for you there.
Okay, thank you everybody and have a lovely afternoon.